Good evening. Tonight we're going to be doing a video on floating. So obviously when you embroider, there's two different ways to do it. You can hoop, which is placing the item you're embroidering actually inside the hoop. And then there's floating, where you either pin or you use a sticky stabilizer or an adhesive of some kind to get the shirt or whatever you're embroidering to stay on. So obviously you're going to need your hoop. Today I'm going to be working with a 5x7 hoop, but this can obviously work for any hoop size. Next thing you're going to need is what you're embroidering on. Now, I'm doing a shirt, so this is what I would be embroidering on. So, next thing you'll need is your stabilizers. So, I am using a 806 pellon stitch and tear and sulky sticky. Now I highly recommend that you use this way to float. Some people say you don't need the sticky, but I believe that that is what you need. Also to say that there is many different ways to embroider. You just have to find out what works for you. This isn't to say that my way is better than someone else's or their way is better than mine. This is just what I've noticed that works for me. Next, you are going to need your fabrics. Now, I'm doing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt, so that is why I picked out these colors. Also, I wanted to show you, on the back here, I ironed Heat and Bond Light. Now, whenever I do an applique, I always iron Heat and Bond Light onto the back. So you can see when I peel it off, it has like a shiny finish. That's to keep the fabric from fraying. It also makes it look cleaner. Sometimes if you can see, like sometimes if you do a shirt and you don't use Heat and Bond Light, you can see the fabric separates from the satin stitch. This will prevent that from happening. I also recommend that if you've been embroidering for more than say 5 hours, not continuously, but if you know and you use the needle, make sure you change the needle. Honestly, a fresh needle it really helps. Next thing you're going to need are your embroidery scissors. I recommend Kai 4-inch curved. You can see Kai 4-inch curved scissors. I recommend that. I don't know if you can see it. It has like a curve right here. So from there, you are going to pick out your corresponding embroidery thread colors. I love Floriani. I think that it's shiny. It has a beautiful sheen on it. It's not that high priced. I mean, obviously, I know it's like $6 a spool, but I think it's worth it, honestly. If you're trying to produce a high quality product, you need to use high quality materials. So let's get to the floating. Alright, so now we are going to float our shirt. So let's start with the stabilizers. We have the 806 pellon stitch and tear. Then we have the sulky sticky. So what I do is I fold them in half like a hot dog. To me, it just makes it easier to place it inside the hoop. So once you do that, you kind of want your hoop to be kind of loose. So it takes a little, you can tell obviously it takes a little time. So what I always do is I always check the corners. Okay, so now it's in. Now make sure that you tighten it, because honestly, you're going to be regretting it if you don't. I've had my hoop pop off probably 20 times, and I've do this like too much. So next you are going to make an X, and then I like to go around the edges also. It just makes it easier to get the part off. So don't forget that it's your 806 pellon stitch and tear, and then it is your sulky sticky on top, and you want the grid to be facing up. So then, okay, so now I removed the top layer, and you can see it's sticky. I'm sorry for all the interruptions, guys. My daughter, you know how 3-year-olds are. So, okay, so you see how this is sticky, 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 sticky. So now I'm going to set this aside, and now we're going to work on pinning the shirt. Now what I mean by pinning the shirt, excuse me, is you basically are going to pin the center of the shirt. So I always fold it like a hot dog. You want to make sure that there's no creases, that it's, you know, obviously folded, centered here. Two ends are touching, and then the 2 ends are touching up here. So you kind of want to make a crease. So you're going to take a straight pin, and I like to start up at the top. I'll show you why when we place the shirt. Okay. So if you can see that, I don't know if it's, I don't know. Okay. I shouldn't have used a white pin, but this one you'll be able to see. When you're pinning, you want to try to only get the top, the first layer of the shirt, because if you get the second layer, when you go to turn it out, you're not going to get it right. Okay, so next thing I do is I double check to make sure that the shirt is actually centered. So this, you see how I folded it towards me? Now I'm going to unfold it and fold it away from me. Then I'm going to, careful peanut, Sabrina. Then I'm going to do the same thing, okay? It looks pretty good. Then I hold it up and I check it myself just to make sure. But if you can see, here's the first pin and here's the second pin. So it looks pretty good. So next we're going to place it on the hoop. So you have your hoop. Now, you can see, let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, so if you can see these little notches right here and right here, these are the center marks for vertical. And then when you turn it this way, you have a notch here, then you have a notch here. So, also, I know this sounds really stupid, but I've done it so many times. When you're hooping the shirt, make sure that your slide or your clip for your hoop is to your left, because there's been so many times that I've hooped a shirt like this, and it just, you know, obviously that's not going to work. So you always want your hoop or your slide to your left. That's on a brother machine. Obviously some other hoops and slides are on the other side, but for the brother, you want it facing you want your slide or clip to be facing your right or your left. Sorry about that. So obviously this technique can be used for any hoop, whether you have, you know, a Singer or, you know, some of the other brands. But I have a brother, so that's why I keep mentioning brother. So you want to take your first pin. I'm going to zoom back in here. Okay. Sorry about the camera work, guys. Okay, so you want to take your first pin and you want to line it up here. So I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. Okay. So the pin head and the center line on your hoop are basically touching each other. Now, obviously, you may or may not know this, but when you hoop or when you embroider, your design doesn't go all the way to the side of the hoop. You have about a 1/4 inch around the entire outside. So I like the shirts that I make for kids to be starting right at their shoulders and go down. So I always pin at the top. So some people like the designs to go further down. Some people like them up higher. I personally just think they sit nicer. So next you're going to take your next pin and you're going to line it up with the bottom center mark, and then you're just going to press it, and you'll be able to feel if there's any creases. Like you can see how I'm lifting, and then, you know. So now that it's smooth, if you rub your hands around it, you should not feel any creases. The shirt and the stabilizer should feel like it's one. So next I remove the pins. Okay. Alright, so now I am actually going to make the shirt. I'm actually going to make another video while I'm doing this video on how to do an applique, because some people obviously have never made an applique. They're scared. They're not really sure how it's going to work, so here goes nothing. See you guys in a few minutes. Alright, now we are going to start the shirt. So, remember I mentioned how important it is to change your needles? It's also important to start with a fresh bobbin. So, because when you're in the middle of a satin stitch, if you have to stop for any reason, you can tell where you stop. So, to make the most smooth looking satin stitch, make sure you change your bobbin. I wind my own bobbins. I find it more cost effective, but obviously pre-wound bobbins work great too. It just depends, again, what works for you. So, okay, so now we are going to do the tack down. I'm sorry, we're going to do the satin stitch. We just did the tack down. You can see I also cut it out. So here we go. Also, I want to point out that I know that this stuff that I'm saying seems obvious to some people, but other people are like, I wouldn't even think about that. Make sure that there's enough space if you're embroidering like I am close to a wall, that your hoop doesn't hit the wall, because if it hits the wall, let me just tell you, it's game over. So, alright, we're almost done here. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Here is the final result. Let me know if you have any other questions or suggestions for videos that I could make. I enjoy making them. I hope I help somebody at some point. So, hope you guys have a great holiday. Merry Christmas, and I will talk to you guys soon.